Welcome back, my friends, to another episode of
The show that never ends.
First Ring Daily. Well, I adjust the camera size, and you are smaller, but I didn't make myself big enough.
Yeah, it's okay. We're getting there.
Yeah.
At some point, we'll cross paths, and then you'll get bigger, and then I'll eventually be a little dot on the horizon.
Yeah. As is tradition here on First Ring Daily, because there's no time in between each episode, we just do it as we record. And let's see, tomorrow I need to make a note to make myself bigger.
Yeah. Well, actually, tomorrow's going to be interesting because I won't be at home,
Oh, even
so
better. Well,
I'll
then I'm not going to.
probably
Yeah.
be in the airport in Boston, maybe, or in a car.
Are
We'll
you
wing it.
flying to Boston?
What's that?
Are you
I'm
flying?
flying. Oh yeah, I'm flying this time. Yeah, I have all these points on JetBlue, right? So
Mm-hmm.
JetBlue only has two direct flights from Philadelphia, and one's Boston. So I figured I could, see how that goes. The only issue is you have to rent a car. Well, I don't have to rent a car, but it's way more convenient. So I think from a cost perspective, it may not be a wash, but I don't have to spend 10 to 12 hours in a car either. So I'll let you know how it goes.
How long of a flight is that? Like 30 minutes?
Yeah, it's like an hour. I bet in the air, it's probably 45, 50 minutes, something like that.
Yeah. Which is probably about how long it's going to take the show notes to show up here in Teams under that OneNote tab.
Yeah, I
because
did. I did get it to come up, by the way. But yeah, I had to retry it 3 times. I don't know.
we'll just we'll just rock and roll here because I know the first thing because it's on the screen behind me, which is
Hmm.
Google announced today a massive update to essentially Gmail and a whole bunch of other their G Suite stuff. They also said that they have 4 million businesses paying for G
Yeah.
Suite, which don't confuse that. That's not 4 million customers. That means 4 million
Right.
businesses, which have multiple customers, which we know Salesforce, I believe Verizon was doing this. So they've got quite a few people using this. They're adding a bunch of features like basically an email that will delete itself after a set amount of time. Another feature which allows you to use a second tier of an authentication. So you send them an email, then they have to enter a code from an SMS, which Office 365 has a lot of this stuff. But this is just Google just chipping away at all those differentiating features of Office 365. And this is easily the biggest threat to Office 365 at the moment is G Suite.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of the features are going to be or are now available if you want to check them out to individuals too. So if you're just a normal Gmail user, you should be able to see a lot of this stuff. But it is very business focused. The other thing I saw just as I posted my own article about this was that I had tried to research the Gmail user base,
Mm-hmm.
and as of last July, Google had said it was 1.2 billion active users. But they told Reuters, I think it was Reuters, that the number is now 1.4 billion. So we don't know what the mix is business to consumer. I would assume it skews pretty heavily toward consumer. But
Yeah.
yeah, like you said, 4 billion businesses of probably mostly smaller businesses, but some enterprises for sure. And enterprises include governments, educational institutions as well, not just businesses.
Yeah. So this is scaling up nicely for Google, I believe, under Diane Green, and they are continuing to push into that because they are I believe their capex expenses went up dramatically last quarter, even though they did report a profit, and many believe that is related to one a build out of their cloud services, and all of these things
Mhm.
get combined. And Google doesn't specifically break it out, but when they say they're building data centers, we all know those aren't cheap, and that's just a deeper push into this cloud segment.
Yeah, I done some math on Google's revenues. It's kind of hard because, like Microsoft, like all these companies, they kind of, they're big in various ways. But as of the night of their conference call, I had pretty much figured out that year over year, the Cloud Plus devices business that they have, like their other revenues, which is basically G Suite and Google Cloud Services plus Pixel, Home, Nest, whatever hardware they have. Really, the change year over year from a revenue perspective was really small. And I don't remember the exact percentage, but it was under 10%. It was something really small. I think it might have even been 1 to 3%. It was a really small number. And I had written that up in my own report. And then I saw later that the year over year comparison isn't completely accurate because last year's, well, I already knew this part, but last year's revenues didn't include Nest. Remember, Nest was like a separate business last year. They actually said what Nest's shortfall or revenues, and then they didn't make a profit, but the revenues were, and if you take out Nest revenues, like actually that business was completely flat year over year. So Google's parent company Alphabet as a whole and Google as a whole did well, but then I think it was 86% of Google's revenues are from ads. If you look at just the stuff that they actually make that we use, products and services, that is not growing at all. So from a revenue perspective. So I think this stuff is, I'm sure it was always time for now, but it's interesting timing because they've just completed a year in which they didn't really grow. And it's kind of weird to me that no one's talking about that.
Well, there you go. I got nothing.
Indeed.
I haven't looked at their financials, so I have very little insight into that. Although Microsoft reports earnings, I think, is it tomorrow? I think it's tomorrow.
Yeah, it's probably tomorrow. Also, I think it was the Reuters report noted, not for the first time, but Microsoft's revenues from just Office 365 are 10 times Google's cloud revenue, like cloud G Suite plus associated services revenues.
Yep. Important to keep things in perspective, which Amazon apparently is doing because they're trying to get them while they're young, Paul. With their...
I never resist the opportunity to use that phrase in a headline. Yeah, Amazon today announced a new version of the Dot, which is their low-end Echo speaker. The normal version of the Dot costs $50. The kids version, which comes in these kind of fun, bright colors, costs, I think it was $80. So why would this thing be more expensive? It comes with a 2-year, no questions asked replacement policy. So if your kid throws it against the wall and it breaks, you can send it back to Amazon and they'll replace it for free. I mean, that alone might help, but it also includes Amazon's, well, the basic free version. No, that's not true. I'm sorry. It includes 1 year of the paid version of Amazon's parental controls subscription service. So they offer a free version that has some list of, features for parental controls. And then they have something called an unlimited version, which for Prime members, I believe, is $2.99 a month. And so you get a year of that for free. And if you add that up, I mean, this more than makes up the cost, obviously. And that adds a bunch of other things like educational Q&A type stuff. And they have neat features. You can have like wake up to Amazon Echo Dot using like a Nickelodeon or Disney voice. And obviously they have, kind of kid-friendly stations and music and all that. And you can filter out explicit songs and set time limits and all that kind of stuff. So I'm being a little cynical about this thing, but it makes sense. I mean, I would imagine that kids will flock to voice-activated devices just like they do to any other digital device. They'll grok immediately how these things work.
They'll figure it out.
Actually, here's a fun feature. I think it's called Magic Word. And basically what you can do is configure this thing not to work with your kid's voice unless they say please. It's nice. So you're not barking commands at the thing all the time, treating it like a subservient Westworld robot.
That is nice, I guess.
That's pretty
Maybe
good.
The overlords are keeping track of when we use polite words so that when the impending doom comes, they will let us live longer. Maybe.
Yep.
Maybe. Speaking of show notes, because the show notes still... we can't access your content. Please refresh to try again. Session ID, something along the lines.
Again, I can see them now, but while you were talking, while I was talking about Office 365 versus G Suite, it came up with this thing that said, I can't remember the exact language, but it was can't save version or something. And I was like, you can see why this thing is dominant. It's such a great product.
Speaking of other cool things that Microsoft does, To-Do has a lot more competition, and it seems to be more full-featured.
Yeah, I haven't paid too much attention to the Google offering here, but I guess they've had something called Google Tasks as part of Gmail/Google Calendar for some time. They've improved that. They've made it easier to access from Gmail. Actually, what they have, if you look at it, is kind of a top left drop-down UI thing that's a lot like Office 365 now. That's kind of interesting. But what they've added is new mobile apps for Android and iOS, right? So now if you go to the store, you can find Google Tasks in those places. Now, obviously, it syncs up and does all that stuff. So if you go down the feature list, you'll discover that it's pretty full-featured. It looks like it pretty much, does the stuff you would want. You can have time-based reminders, of tasks and things. Obviously, set deadlines and finish tasks and edit tasks and make lists. And it looks like, like they have a single thing that does everything.
kind of maybe would you describe it as wonderful?
It's I feel that yeah, I feel that they see nothing but sunrise in their future, and it should be good for them.
Well, when that sun
It
does
sways
come,
me to use the Google stuff.
when that sun does come, Paul, they can get the band out and groove out to their own music.
Yep.
Speaking of grooving out, Opera has a new mobile, and they have a new browser. Didn't they always have a browser?
They always had a browser. So the desktop browser has been updated to support a kind of an interesting new feature in the new mobile browser. So the mobile browser, I guess, has been completely redone. It's now called Opera Touch. Its primary function is that it works in a one-handed mode. They have a kind of a button in the lower part of the UI that's very prominent that you can reach with your thumb, and it brings up a list of all the things you might want to do. And of course, the big deal here is what the big deal is with all web browsers, which is that it syncs everything between mobile and desktop. And so if you're an Opera user, you can do now what Gmail or Google Chrome users have been doing, Firefox users, Safari users, albeit only on the Mac, Edge users even, albeit only on Windows, have been doing for some time, which is, interoperate between the two, basically do the continue on PC, continue on mobile type stuff. So if you are an Opera user, this is actually a pretty significant upgrade, even though the desktop version isn't a major update other than that integration stuff.
That's just swell.
Yeah, it looks pretty good. I always do this. I downloaded it. I looked at it. I'm like, it's really clean looking. It's nice. I've been playing around with the Canary version of Chrome because they're finally changing the UI to do this new Material Design 2.0 thing that's coming out in the spring. Mm-hmm. And they got rid of those kind of trapezoidal tabs, which I've always kind of hated. So now they're curved, and it looks very much like Firefox used to look when they had the curved tabs, but it's so much prettier than Chrome is. It was just my kind of one gripe with Chrome. And I look at Opera and I kind of see the same thing. I think it looks better in Windows 10 to me than Chrome does.
Well, that will be fun to watch. You know what else is fun to watch, Paul?
What's that?
The tracking update, because my Xbox One X will be here by the end of the day.
Well, that's going to be very exciting. And then you can spend the next, 48 hours downloading all those gigantic games.
Well, I only need one, so that streamlines it. But actually, what I did do this morning was, rather than look at my email, I ran a new Ethernet cable from my Switch down to the Xbox so that I will get the full bandwidth of my internet connection, which is about 200 down. So I should be able to get the game relatively quickly, but UPS
That's a very smart move, by the way.
Yeah, UPS is saying by 8 p.m., and if it arrives at 8 p.m., that will be very sad trombone noise for me. But
I've played, probably 5 or 6 hours of Call of Duty over the past 6 months, by which I mean 500 or 600 hours. And the one thing that's kind of interesting in a negative way to me is that I noticed this. It's very prominent. In fact, I had talked about how I got off to a bad KD with that game, and I'm not completely blaming this, but a lot of it I think was lag issues. Like lag deaths are one of the most annoying things that can happen in a third-person shooter.
Yep.
And I've recorded videos, and I've been meaning to go back and look at them up in Xbox because I don't think they'll show what I was seeing. But in other words, you're firing at an enemy, the bullets are hitting him, and he's not dying. And then all of a sudden, you just crumple dead, and you didn't even see what he fired. And what I witnessed was not what the game registered, which is really irritating. And what happened a couple of months ago was that they actually add a line now to the opening screen of Call of Duty where it says something to the effect of, "Don't play this on Wi-Fi. Make sure you're connected with a cable." And I think what happened is a lot of people have been witnessing this and complaining. But putting a cable onto your Xbox is probably the smartest thing you could do.
I did have one for a very long time, and then I stopped playing my Xbox because I was playing PUBG on the PC. And then when I moved, I don't think you can see it. I think I got it out. What you can't see here is that my other office is quite literally right above me. And so what I did is I took the Ethernet cable that was in the Xbox, which is in the back corner, routed it up along the rafters, and then it goes up through the floor, actually through my AC vent or whatever the heck it's called, return vent. And so it's right here. And so the cable, I could have unhooked my PC, but I'd rather have my PC upstairs hardwired. And then I don't know why I'm explaining all this, but this morning I ran 75 feet of Ethernet Cat 5e, I think it is, to my Xbox.
when we reoriented the where the cable modem came into the house, we put it into the living room, which is kind of in front of me, and I guess to your left, and actually to my left as well. I don't know why I just did that. Anyway, it was the one room that didn't have a cable connection, so we had to have the guy wire it. Mm-hmm. So that cable, where the thing comes into the house, is, as a crow would fly through the wall, is less than 10 feet. But to get that cable over to here, where I am, would require going back through the floor and coming up through the floor in here, because there's a wall and there's a door, and I'm not going to run a cable on the floor. That would look ridiculous. And I'm just not willing to. I don't want to. This is a dining room I'm in, so I'm sure someone in the future will use it as a dining room, and I don't want to put a hole in the floor.
Yeah, especially right in the middle.
I don't know. Yeah, like you would just see it. I mean, well, I put it in the side somewhere, but I did that in my old house. The office I was in, which was in the same position in the house where I am right now, has a couple holes in the floor, as does the living room, because of where the TV was. And I really regret doing that. But I also regret lag kills. So it's kind of a lose-lose.
Yeah, you only regret the holes when you move. You regret the lag kills every single day.
Brad, that is an amazing observation. And what you just said is something I have codified into a phrase, which is optimize for the everyday, not for the occasional.
Still waiting for Microsoft to adopt that.
Yep. I mean, no, that was in many ways a verbal slap in the face. That was well done. That's good.
You got anything else for today, Paul?
No, not really. I'm going to try to do the HP Envy X2 review today. I pulled out, like I think I already said this, I had a big chunk about whether the stupid operating system made any sense, and it doesn't. So I kind of yanked that out because it was too big. So I made that its own article, but I'll just review the device itself, which, the device is great. It's just hobbled by this platform. I haven't asked HP this yet, but I would really like to get the Intel version of this device, which I believe gets 15 hours of battery life instead of 20.
Oh.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's not. I mean, I didn't mean that like in a negative way. I mean like
right.
Like,
no, that's
gap
amazing
is
battery
not
life.
That much different.
And then if you really want to get stabbed in the back, they also announced the Chromebook version of it. So I don't know what the battery life is on that thing, but God help us all if that thing ever does well. But those are the options. I think it'd be kind of interesting to do a head-to-head comparison between the three too.
Oh, I would
anyway,
absolutely agree.
What about you, Brad? What's going on today? Other than your Xbox excitement.
Yeah, I'm clearing the agenda for no specific reason this afternoon.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You must have better weather then, because the rain that you promised has arrived here.
Yeah, no, actually, I'm probably going to go to the driving range at lunch and then sit at the front door like a puppy, waiting to go outside. Looking at the watch, waiting for that UPS man to show up with the Christmas goods.
All right. Well, you have fun doing that, and let me know when you're playing PUBG. I'm curious what you think.
Yeah, that's going to be the big difference. Is I
would just prep yourself not to be super happy.
Well, I have modest expectations because I'm playing it on an Xbox One S right now, and it's bad. So anything less than bad is good, and I've watch the YouTube videos of people have it side by side showing the comparisons, and there are noticeable differences. And if there aren't, then I will cry. But
no, there should be visual differences or performance differences, both.
Both, realistically. Yeah. So and the big thing
I played Call of Duty on the Xbox One S, and it was terrible. Like it's just awful.
So, all right, folks. Well, that wraps it up for today. That's me and not Paul. That wraps it up for today. We'll catch you right back here tomorrow. I am so screwed up. I keep thinking today is Thursday, but it is not. It is a fake Wednesday. But have yourselves a wonderful fake Wednesday.